G'day, folks. Welcome to Rolling Conversations this afternoon. We hope everyone watching online is safe and well this week, and we're really pleased to have with us one of the stars of wheelchair rugby around the world. And he's an Australian. He's a very important part of the wheelchair sports community in New South Wales, has been for a very long time. Andrew Edmondson, OAM. Welcome to Rolling Conversations.
Thanks for having me.
Mate, is it all right if I call you Edmo? It seems like everyone else does.
Yeah, that's fine.
Righto.
Yeah.
And have you had any other nicknames, just so I know? I mean, certainly anything that you can say on air.
I grew up with Andy. That was pretty much my family called me that. But ever since I went to school, it's just been Edmo. A lot of people even now that didn't really know my first name for a while till I properly introduced myself. So
Yeah,
it's
sure.
just been the one that stuck. So.
Mate, we've got lots to cover tonight, and we've got plenty of people going to jump on and ask some questions. And we encourage everyone watching along to please post your questions, and we'll get to those, certainly as many as we can. Edmo, I want to hear about you as a young man. Just interested as what a the boy Edmo was like. Where did you grow up, and what was life like when you were a little kid?
It was amazing. I grew up to an amazing family. I had an older brother, and a younger sister, and um, really awesome parents that ever since I can remember, um, just yeah, had a great childhood. We really enjoyed going and doing things outdoors. My dad was a big part of pushing me into sport, and ever since I can remember, it was just something I loved. I loved playing any sport, whether it be cricket, basketball, tennis, rugby, whatever it was. I loved watching it. It was something I really wanted to do when I grew up. It was something I watched on TV all the time, and just got myself involved as much as I could. And yeah, childhood, it was great. Good siblings, great family, and we spent a lot of time traveling around, going to our family's farm, which is some great memories for me going out there when I was young, learned a lot of things. And yeah, through school, had some really good friends and a really great childhood. So
Yeah, great.
grew up
Hey,
in
I saw somewhere that you listed your grandparents as your heroes. I thought that was really interesting. They must have played a role in your life as a young man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's something I don't really talk about a great deal, like, to a lot of people, but to me, they were just yeah, just so amazing. My grandma was really supportive and still has been and still is really supportive of me throughout my entire life. Has always told me that to go after what you want to do and go hard and work towards that. And it was a huge part of my journey, particularly for the last couple of years as well. And then my grandfather, he was just sort of everything I wanted to be when I was younger. He was a very, I guess, tough but very nurturing type of guy. But instilled so many good things in me that were really, really important. And that was to work hard for what you have and what you own. He worked really hard on his farm, and I think another thing that was really important was the family aspect of it. He loved his family, and everything he did was for his family. And he loved looking after his children and his grandchildren. And yeah, he was just everything that he did. I try to get myself involved and try to learn as much as I could, and just something that I aspire to be every day is something like my grandfather.
Yeah, very nice. And we're going to talk a little bit later about you being a new dad and you creating your own family now, which is very cool. Um, so you used to sustain a spinal cord injury at 13 down at Coogee Beach, and a lot of our community will know that story. As a result of that, you were in Prince of Wales Hospital. I'm interested in how you went from being in the hospital to being a wheelchair rugby player. What's your journey from that point?
Yeah, so it was where it all started, to be honest. It had only been a few months after my accident. I was in hospital. I ended up spending quite a bit of time there. So, not a lot of 13-year-old boys have spinal cord injuries, particularly back in those days, a fair few years ago now. And so I spent my time going between the children's hospital and the adults hospital. And when I found myself in the adults hospital, particularly doing rehab, was when some people, particularly Craig, who works at the hospital still now, introduced me to wheelchair rugby. And I remember seeing a video of the 2000 Paralympic final, which featured Australia at the time, and unfortunately they lost. But it was the first time the sport had been played at the Paralympics, and it was the first time it was on TV and such a, I guess, a popular sport. And at first I had no interest. I looked at it and I went, oh, look at these crazy guys just pushing around in chairs and smashing into each other. And it didn't really bother me because it was the furthest thing from my mind at the time was playing sport. I just wanted to get back into life and to be able to get my independence back and do what I needed to get back into somewhat normal life. So sport was not really a priority for me. And it was, yeah, in hospital a few months later, I did one of the sports rehab people just take me out to a game. I can't remember exactly where it was, but somewhere in Western Sydney, and got to the venue and remembered seeing it for the first time and just hearing the noise of the chairs running into each other and seeing what these guys could do. And for the first time thinking like, oh, these guys, they're like me. They've had injuries and, yeah, it's crazy what they're doing out there. And of course, again, still being quite shy and new to it all, didn't really want to get involved. And then before I knew it, some guys had chucked me in a chair and thrown some gloves on and said, like, go out and have a go. And just pushed out there on court. And for the first time, sort of just felt excited about something for a long time. Obviously, what I'd just been through and everything that was going on, it was just, yeah, I was just excited to get out there and get involved in a sport. And I remember hitting someone in the chair for the first time. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, this is really, really cool. And from that day forward, went back home and back to hospital. And from that day, yeah, just focused on getting better, getting back into life and getting back into sport. And I kept telling people, my friends and all the nurses and physios and stuff that would come in, I'm going to play wheelchair rugby one day. And that was where it all started.
Interesting, you referenced Craig there, Craig Jarvis, who's on the board of Wheelchair Sports New South Wales. But, I shudder to think how many people Craig has helped, in decades of service in that spinal unit out at the hospital there. Another, long-term member of our community there on screen at the moment, Yvonne Talbot, is actually on Rolling Conversations on Thursday. So apparently Yvonne's watching you for tips, Edmo. So, do your best, won't you? Ahead of us having Mrs. Yvonne Talbot on Thursday. So your journey from that point then, I understand you go to a come and try day with Paralympics Australia, and then eventually you find yourself in the GIO New South Wales Gladiators team, the state team here in New South Wales, which you're now the captain of, and you've been the captain and a participant for a long time. You, as much as anybody, I imagine, has felt the impact of GIO's sponsorship of Wheelchair Sports New South Wales. I mean, they've just been such an incredible partner. As I say time and time again, it's one of the most enduring partnerships in Australian sport, GIO and Wheelchair Sports. You must have just seen the impact that this organisation, Matt K. Roos and those sort of people have had on your sport and your career in particular over a long time.
Yeah, I definitely have. And like you said, it's been one of the big parts of changing our sport, and particularly our sport here in New South Wales, but in Australia as well. And I think all the athletes that have been involved for, those couple of years that were around, have been around for a fair while, completely understand that change. I remember my first couple of years of playing, we were traveling around everywhere. We were paying for everything, paying for all of our equipment, paying to be involved, paying for traveling. And that was part of the sport. And we were playing in small venues in the middle of nowhere with no live streaming, maybe 10 spectators that were all family or friends of the people involved. And that was where it all started. And just as the sport has grown, GIO has been a huge part of it. They really came on board and wanted to, I guess, highlight our sport a lot more, and really took it from being in those back docks, in schools in the middle of nowhere, to having live stream and having a venue that people could come out and watch and be involved. And it's made such a big difference to the sport that you see now. We look at our national championships, and I think as a country, I think we're pretty lucky to be able to compete on the level that we do for our national competition. Obviously, we struggled a fair bit the last couple of years with getting competitors involved, but to be able to have a competition like that at the venue like we do, we're very, very lucky. And GIO has been a massive part in getting us to that point.
Yeah, they sure have. And a shout out to all, as I know that a lot of people from the GIO team watch Rolling Conversations, and they were particularly interested because of their passion for wheelchair rugby, Edmo, to see you tonight. So we say good day to everyone watching online. Before we get into talking to your career then as in the Australian Steelers, the national wheelchair rugby team, and your Paralympic career and the World Championships, I want to ask you about classification. So for those in our community, classification is very familiar in terms of the term and what that means. But as I spoke to you about before we came on air, the way that the point system works in wheelchair rugby, I think adds a whole nother layer of interest to the sport. And I wonder if you might explain your classification and how that fits with the team.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most interesting parts of our sport. Like, people come along and they see it and they see these amazing athletes, but they don't quite understand what each player, their role is, and their level of injury and their involvement in the sport. And to make it, I guess, easier, each team has 8 points in total that they can put on court, and the highest functioning player can be a 3.5, and the lowest functioning can be a 0.5. Or if you're a female, you can end up being 0 if you're a 0.5, as females get a 0.5 deduction. So each team is only allowed 4 players, and each one of those players has to make up 8 points. And it can be no more than 8 points. You can obviously run less if you want, but a lot of teams don't. For me personally, I'm a mid-level spinal cord injury with quite a fair bit of function, but my classification is a 2 point, so right in the middle of that classification. But it makes a huge impact on our sport. It is the reason why players with a lot less function get on, get involved in the sport, play, but still also have a huge impact. You look at the players like Riley Batt, Chris Bond, particularly here in Australia. You know, they're really big, strong, athletic players that score a lot of goals and do a lot of things on the court. But there's other players, lower functioning players, that have just as much impact to be able to make a team successful. So it's a huge part of wheelchair rugby, and something that I guess people, when they first start watching, don't necessarily see. But something that, as you watch the game a bit more and understand it a bit more, start to understand the different roles that players have.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for explaining that. As I say, it is a really important and interesting part of the game. And if we want to invite more people into wheelchair rugby and build that community and the spectator base, it's a very interesting part, I think, of how we can invite more people in. So we fast forward then, you become a member of the Australian Steelers in 2014, and you make your debut, and then you go on to represent Australia at the Paralympics in 2016 in Rio. And I didn't see it at the time, but I've subsequently seen the highlights. Anyone that does or has seen that final between Australia and the USA in double overtime says they'll never, ever forget that. Just give us a sense of what that incredible match must be like to play in. I mean, as I say, the highlights are breathtaking.
Yeah, it was something I'll never forget. And a lot of the guys, that were on our team and part of that process that built up to those games, will never forget. It was amazing. I mean, we're used to playing in front of not many people. And remember, the first game we played was against Great Britain. There wasn't many people there. It was a small crowd, and the lead up to that game was really tough. We played against some really tough teams to make it through a couple of overtime games in our pool games. Made it through. Had a great game against Japan, and then to make it to the final was amazing. For me, being in my first Paralympics, to be able to be part of that. A lot of the guys around me had been through that before, and that was really, really great to have their experience. You know, they kept the team calm, and there was so much excitement wheeling out. I remember, I'll never forget, there was 16,000 people, and you couldn't hear a thing. You couldn't hear what your coach was saying, what your teammates. You couldn't even hear the whistle. The game just sort of unfolded in a way that you just had to just play natural rugby. That just whatever came to you happened, because you could honestly hear nothing. And I was fortunate enough to start that game and play a fair few minutes in that game, and it went so fast. That's all I remember of it, just being really, really quick, and by far one of the toughest games I've been involved in, just with the speed, the noise, the intensity that was involved was crazy, and definitely something I'll never forget. And particularly for us to come away with that result after the build up. You know, for seeing the Paralympics from the outside world, I didn't really quite understand what goes into it. You know, the years of the build up towards it, and then everything that we do as athletes and a team to get to that point was, yeah, it was just so grateful to be a part of something like that, and something that so glad to be able to share with my family and friends that were on the journey the whole way with me as well.
We've got Kathy Edmondson saying it was amazing to watch. So I'm guessing there's some sort of relative there.
Yeah, that's my mother. She was there. She's been a huge supporter of mine, and a lot of my family came over. My brother, um, in-laws, yeah, all different types of family were there to watch the games, including my 86-year-old grandmother that came over. So it was amazing.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, so a hugely successful team, and you know, you come back from Rio, you're a gold medalist. 2 more years down the track, we have the Wheelchair Rugby World Championships in Sydney. Now, I tried to talk to Riley about this on Rolling Conversations, and things got awkward and a bit silent because it was a terribly painful final loss to the Japanese. We'll talk about it briefly, and then we'll move on. But it must have been a hell of a disappointment in your hometown not to get over the Japanese in that final.
Definitely, and something that will probably live with me for the rest of my life, to be honest. Yeah, huge disappointment. Had such a great tournament, such a great build up. You know, it wasn't from complacency or anything like that. We'd obviously won the previous world champs, the previous Paralympics. We knew it was going to be tough. We knew they were a great team. We knew it was going to be challenging playing in front of our home family and friends, and it definitely wasn't because of that. It was just one of those days where the game just didn't go our way. And credit to Japan, they played a really good game after losing to us 2 days before that. And it's just the highs and lows of our sport. It was pretty gutting, but it was also motivating now as well, like something to look back on and know that feeling will stay with you for a long time and forever. For however much longer I compete, it'll be something that I keep in the back of my mind every time I play. Is I don't want that to happen again, and it's a motivator for me now, and particularly something hopefully I'd like to make it to another World Championships just so I can get another opportunity to hopefully win.
Right the wrong. So we mentioned at the start, you're a new dad, which is really exciting. So tell us about your boy. Tell us about what fatherhood's like for you.
Yeah, it's a game changer for sure. But to be honest, yeah, one of the best things that's ever happened to me. Something that was furthest from my mind for the last couple of years, but the way everything changes, when you have something like that is, it's amazing. And yeah, it was obviously going to be a little bit challenging with the timing of the games this year and having a young kid, but I've been so lucky with all that's going on recently, I guess, to be able to spend so much time at home and see them grow because they grow really quickly. And yeah, it's been amazing to have him, and just yeah, there's not too many other words you can say than just amazing. And yeah, so
Yeah.
grateful to spend so much time and see them grow. And yeah, can't wait to just be there while he grows up.
And what sort of dad do you want to be, Edmo? Have you thought about, I'm sure you have given some thought about what sort of dad that you want to, so what's your son's name? I'm sorry?
His name's Carter.
Carter. So what sort of dad do you want to be for Carter?
It's a tough question. Look, just I haven't really thought about that. Just whatever comes naturally. It just that's just how I'm going to be. Really supportive. I guess that's the number one thing I think he can be as a parent is just support whatever they want to do and be there for them in the good times and the bad times, and just make sure they whatever it is they want to do in life, they can go after it and just be there to support them as much as you can.
Right. Hey, just a mention to everyone watching along, please send us your questions now, and we'll start to get into some of those with you, Edmo. I know there'll be some of your teammates as well. Send some through. Maybe they won't all get to air, but we'll wait and see. Just while we're doing that, though, it appears almost compulsory for everyone that we've featured on Rolling Conversations so far that that they have a dog. Now, you firmly fall into that category. Anyone that follows your Instagram has seen your lovely dog. Tell us about your dog.
Yeah, I had a dog for about 2 years now, and always had pets growing up. Usually cats and all different types of things. But yeah, it was something as soon as we got the house and had a bit more room. Something we wanted to do was get a dog, and it's been great. Yeah, definitely something that keeps you entertained and keeps you, getting outside and active. And yeah, it's really important part of my family now to have the dog and take it most places I can. But yeah, it's awesome, and she's a really well behaved dog, which is another good thing as well. I don't have to worry too much about disciplining her. She's really well behaved, so yeah, really grateful to have be able to have a dog like that.
Yeah. Well, you did say that we should keep an ear out for the barking. We haven't heard anything yet, so far so good. Uh,
Yeah.
we've got a question here from Richard Corjukes who says, "How hard was it to be as fast as Cameron Carr?"
It was tough. Yeah, I started off probably a fair bit slower than Cam. He was pretty quick, but I think age was on my side. So as Cam got a bit older, I caught up to him a fair bit, and as time went on, it was it was tough to get as fast as Cam, but glad I made it there.
And for those not familiar with wheelchair rugby, Cameron Carr, what's his story?
Yeah, former Australian player in my classification as well as a 2.0. Great player, had been around for a long time, won 2 gold medals as the team, and actually someone that was really important when I was first starting the sport. Was really encouraging towards me and getting involved in the sport. So yeah, someone that's been around and has left a good legacy with the Steelers.
Yeah, cool. Before we get on to Lynn's question, Edmo, I just wanted to note that we spoke before about you being a new dad, but I was devastated to understand that you didn't actually have a bank of dad jokes yet. So maybe that's something that you could work on over time.
Yeah, definitely. I'll take a bit of time to get some good ones, but yeah, we'll leave them away for a little while. Yeah,
Sure.
get some good.
Anyone watching along, Rolling Conversations, want to offer some dad jokes for Edmo, please whack them in the comments, and we'll post a couple of them for you, just to give you something to start with, right?
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you.
Lynn asks, "What's your greatest sporting achievement to date?"
Definitely the gold medal at the Paralympics. For me, that was something I dreamed of doing since I was young, and obviously in a very different sport to what I dreamt of as a little boy. But to be able to go through what I did and come back and find a sport like wheelchair rugby and to make it to the Paralympics, which is the pinnacle of our sport, it really is. It's what every athlete aspires to get to and compete in, and then obviously to win a gold medal is the highest honor you can get, and it was so awesome. I loved it, and yeah, also representing Australia, I think is equal with that. For me as a little boy, that was something I really wanted to do. I wasn't sure exactly what sport it would be in, but yeah, to be able to represent your country is huge for me. I'm so grateful to have grown up and live in Australia and had a great childhood, and to be able to represent the country is awesome. And travel around the world, wearing those colours and that emblem is something I really thrive on, and something I'll be able to share with a lot of people for the rest of my life. And yeah, that was probably two of the greatest sporting achievements.
And do you know the second verse of the national anthem?
No,
Okay, good.
no,
Moving on.
yeah.
Hey, David asks, "Who's your favourite wallaby?"
Okay. Current My favorite current wallaby. Yeah, probably Michael Hooper. Just love the way he goes about it. Love the way he plays. Gives everything to every game. He's a good leader, which is something that's important to me. Goes out there and really fights for his team and wants really competitive. And yeah, probably my favorite current player, Michael Hooper for sure.
Great. Adam Calcraft, responding to the dad joke initiative, has offered you one there. Why did the jelly bean go to school? Because he wanted to be a smarty. So some quality material from Adam. Thank you. Keep them coming. Andrew has asked or suggests that you and Riley are training with a secret weapon. Sounds like a loaded question.
Yeah, I guess our trainer, Tony Linehan. I think that's who he's referring to. He's a really good guy. Trains us 5 days a week. So yeah, that's
And
the
for those
answer.
that don't know, Edmo, you're based in Port Macquarie, aren't you, as well? And Riley's up that way. So we were talking before we came on air about the fact that there's a bit of a hub there of wheelchair rugby at Port Macquarie now. There's a few people have come and gone over the years, but yeah, it's a bit of a centre for the sport.
Yeah, it is. It's obviously based around Riley as well. He's one of the greatest players the sport's had, and a big profile here in Australia. So to be able to train with him every day is awesome. And there has been some good people that have come through Port Macquarie and been around, and yeah, we're hoping to hopefully get a few more people up here at some point.
David asks about the next wheelchair rugby national championships, which we hope will still go on in 2020. They were scheduled for earlier in the year and perhaps put back now due to the pandemic. David wants to know who wins this year's wheelchair rugby national championships.
It's got to be New South Wales for sure. It's
Got
been
to
a few
be.
years, now. So I've been a part of a winning national championship team, so it'd be good to be part of that again. So
Yeah.
definitely,
Yeah, indeed. Now, Pat Curtin's got a question coming through there. It says, who's better at four-wheel driving, you or Riley?
Uh, I've got to be honest, definitely him. He's done it a lot more than me. He's actually saved my car once before as well, so I'll give him the credit. I know he bagged me out on here last time, but I'll be nice and I'll be the bigger man. I'll let him have that one.
Sounds like you're taking the higher ground there, Edmo, because Riley did give it to you on Rolling Conversations a few weeks back, but good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh, Todd asks, Edmo, what's with all the tire marks on the court after a game?
Yeah, that's part of our sport. As soon as you see it, you know what's involved, and you see players these days flying around, falling out of chairs, wearing chairs that are 25 kilos each, plus the weight of an athlete sitting in them, and they're flying around really fast and tumbling, and that's just part of our sport, unfortunately. And not a lot of sporting facilities around the world are really keen to host a wheelchair rugby tournament for that reason alone.
Hmm. We've only got a couple of minutes left, but I'm interested, Edmo. You mentioned earlier, you said something along the lines of, for as long as I can play, you'd like to win a world championship, make amends for the Japanese game and obviously Tokyo next year. What does life look like for you after wheelchair rugby? Have you thought about that? Are you a coach, in waiting? Would you remain with the sport? Yeah, what does life look like post playing?
Yeah, look, post playing competitively, I'll definitely still be a part of the sport as long as I can get out there and compete. I'll still play at the smaller levels locally or hopefully nationally for as long as I can and until people sort of take over from me. But definitely, I'm not sure about coaching just yet. It's something that I enjoy doing, as part of being a leader within a few different groups, but not sure I'd be able to cope with being a coach, to be honest with you. I struggle with the whole competitiveness, playing now, not being able to get on the court and all that type of stuff and losing. So I'm sure I'd be not the greatest coach. But yeah, look, I have ambitions of my own beyond wheelchair rugby, which is I've been putting in place for the last couple of years. I'd love to run my own business. I have a degree in sports management, so I'd love to hopefully one day have my own business, sports management business. And there's something I've been working on for the last couple of years. And obviously, being a full time athlete makes it a little bit difficult to spend a lot of time on that type of stuff. But in the time that I've had, I've been putting some tracks together. So hopefully, once my career ends in wheelchair, I'll be able to transition into something like that.
Yeah, great. And finally, you're the skipper of the GIO New South Wales Gladiators, the state team for wheelchair rugby. We've spoken about, living in Port Macquarie. Will we see you back in Sydney at some stage, and will people get to see you play on a regular basis?
Yeah, it's in the plan actually to move back closer to Sydney and be closer to my family, which is most important, and particularly having a young one growing up to be able to see their cousins and family is going to be really important. So soon enough, hopefully, when all of this bad stuff in the world ends, things will go back to normal and be able to be down in Sydney. And something I miss is the ability to be amongst a larger group environment. I really, I guess, thrive on sharing my experience and helping young people come through in this sport, and getting involved in disabled sport. I'm a huge advocate for it and what it can do for people in their lives. So for me to be able to get back to an environment where I'm able to share that on a regular basis is something that I look forward to doing.
Well, mate, we really appreciate your time. It's really, whilst we're not rolling at the moment, it's great for our community to get together a couple of times a week around this idea called rolling conversations, and see people like yourself looking well, planning for the future, bringing a sense of optimism to all of us as we start to sort of figure out when we can get playing sport again. We've loved watching your career as a wheelchair rugby player over such a long time, and we just wish you all the best for your preparation for Tokyo next year. We can't see you wait to see you rip in Tokyo next year and try and bring home a second gold medal.
Yeah, thanks very much. And the support means a lot. And I will, particularly for the next 12, 18 months until we get there. And yeah, I look forward to that challenge.
All the best to your family and to your new son, Edmo, and we'll stay in touch and follow your career, mate. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers. See you later, everyone.
Bye.